Yes, the 15th principle in the book 5,000 Year Leap, if you haven't read that, it's an excellent book, you should read that. It states the highest level of prosperity occurs when there's a free market economy with a minimum of government regulations. You know that we need the freedom to buy, the freedom to try, the freedom to sell, and the freedom to fail in a capitalistic society. The one caveat that I would like to add to this, however, is with regard to our food supply. If you think back to the Roman Empire and the fall of the Roman Empire, one of the reasons they fell is because they became an import society, had a heavy trade deficit. Their meat supply was produced in North Africa, and when the Vandals ransacked North Africa and cut off Rome's supply of wheat, they could no longer feed themselves. So one thing we have to be careful of, whatever policy we put forward here in the United States, that it doesn't undermine our ability to feed ourselves. Could you imagine this? We've seen some instances already with the tainted shrimp from China, where we can't always count on getting our food supply from overseas. Could you imagine what would happen if China or some nation who wasn't friendly to the United States decided to hold back cargo ships for 3 months? We have to be able to feed ourselves. Yes, I would support states' rights and the 10th Amendment. Yes, I support any attempt to establish a process to recall public officials. I would also argue that the First Amendment documents the right to petition the government for a redress of our grievances. So in essence, we already have that. We should have that right now. And I have signed the petition to recall Mary Landrieu in the hopes that that would be the starting point for here in Louisiana to be able to recall any public official. As you know, Article 6 of the Constitution requires that senators and representatives swear or are bound by an oath to support that Constitution. However, there is no specific penalty defined in the Constitution for not doing so. Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution allows each House to punish its members for disorderly behavior and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. But again, I believe there should also be the possibility for citizens to recall their representatives. The penalty for failing in your job in public office should be no different from failing in your job in private office. You're fired, and you're recalled. Okay, let me be clear on this one. I do not oppose immediate and decisive action where warranted by provocation or attack on the United States. I do, however, support the War Powers Resolution of 1973, which seeks to limit presidential ability to engage in military action beyond 60 days with an additional 30 days to draw down troops. Conflicts where military action is required beyond 60 days, I stand behind having some statutory authorization by Congress, including a declaration of war.
Will you oppose any attempt to nationalize our healthcare system, including any sort of public option for insurance? And will you vote for H.R. 4995 to restore the American people's freedom to choose the health insurance that best meets their individual needs by repealing the mandate that all Americans obtain government-approved health insurance?
I am opposed to nationalizing any industry in the United States, including the healthcare industry. And when we're talking about healthcare, this was really the issue that got me off of the couch to run for this office. I told you I lived in Trinidad and Tobago, and when I lived in Trinidad, I ran an oil and gas business just like I do now. And the things that I saw there, where I'll give you a perfect example. Mr. Dave Jadu, one of my employees, a valve technician. When I arrived on the island, he was suffering with kidney stones. if you have kidney stones in the United States, you go to the doctor, they do the ultrasound procedure, and you pass those stones. Mr. Dave Jadu suffers from kidney stones today because the only thing he could get for his kidney stones from the government was pain pills. I know where we're headed if we don't turn this thing around. I will not lead us down that road. Yes, I vehemently oppose cap and trade legislation. This is going to significantly increase the cost to producers and consumers of energy. It will significantly increase the cost to manufacturers and farmers, and those costs inevitably are going to be passed on to us as consumers. What is left of our manufacturing industry will seek refuge in countries overseas. So, and consider what it would do to our state here in Louisiana, which is so heavily dependent on oil and gas production. There's no question I would be against the cap and trade legislation. I do not support the National Identification Card program. I do not support the National Animal Identification System program or any other federal program which would further erode our rights and our freedom. I'm against, and I'm also against the biometric card that's in the current immigration bill that they're trying to push through. This is a no-brainer. my son can answer this, and the oldest is, 9. Thomas Paine warned us against allowing the elected to form for themselves interests separate than the electors. But that's exactly what we've done. We can no longer allow separate health care. We can no longer allow separate interests in retirement programs. All perks have to end. If you pass a law, you own it. Let me say this. I agree with the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Jay. In his instructions to the jury of the first jury trial before the Supreme Court, the state of Georgia versus Balesford, he stated, "It is presumed that juries are the best judges of facts. It is on the other hand presumed that courts are the best judges of law. But still both objects are within your power of decision. You have a right to take it upon yourself to judge of both, and to determine the law as well as the fact in controversy." With regard to the impeachment of judges, again, that power is best left with the people. If there's a mechanism to recall these judges and they interfere with jury's rights, it's up to us to remove them from office.